Okay, welcome everyone to the Fox Den. This is a wonderful episode because it's our inaugural episode. It's actually a trailblazing episode. I am here with Adina Samuels, who is a published author, but I would like you to give us an introduction.
Sure, thanks for having me, Nathan. It's great to be here. My name is Adina, like you said. In terms of what I think your audience needs to know about me is I've always loved reading and writing. It's what I grew up doing, and eventually I figured out a way to turn it into my career, and that's kind of gotten me here. So yes, I've published a book, but more interesting to me is what I get to do to help other people publish their books. So I founded Entrechat Press, which is an end-to-end publishing company for first-time nonfiction authors. And I help those kind of people who've always thought about writing a book but don't really know how to write, publish, and market their books. In terms of why I'm here, Nathan, I think you and I have had a lot of good chats about entrepreneurship and risk taking and business. And I'm hoping to be able to provide some insights to your audience on some of those things as well.
How do you shift your mindset from I'm a beginner to I actually have value to offer? And what was that moment? What did that moment look like for you in the beginning?
Yeah, great question. I like that one. I think things started to shift when I really embodied this concept of like abundance versus scarcity. And if anyone had told me about these concepts a couple years ago, I probably would have scoffed and kind of laughed them off. But it was in reading Think and Grow Rich, I think, that something just kind of clicked, where it basically talks about how your mindset is what determines your reality. And if you think that there's opportunity for you, then there is. And if you think that there isn't opportunity for you, then there isn't. So that's not to say it's only about thinking positive thoughts and hoping for the best. You really have to kind of do an audit of what you're good at and what people come to you for. So that's probably one piece of advice that I would give people thinking about business or entrepreneurship is like, what is that thing that your friends call you to help you out for? Is it like budgeting? Is it editing their essays? Is it, figuring out how to organize their sock drawer? Whatever it is, what's that thing that you're known for? And then how can you provide that thing to more people and provide that value in a service? So for me, like I said, that thing was always writing and editing. People would always come to me and say, Adina, can you read over my application? Can you rewrite this for me? Can you help me out with this? But writing kind of gets a bad rap in the business world. Whenever I told people, oh, I study English literature or, I want to work in the communications field, people would kind of like smile appreciatively and kind of think of me as like, oh, that's cute. She's a writer. But there's no real concept that writing can be like a real business skill. But I think since the rising of technology and all of that stuff, communication is actually a real superpower. And while I never thought about making money when I started out my career, I worked in nonprofit and I never knew kind of what exactly I wanted to do. I realized that the very skills that other people looked at and kind of scoffed at and said, well, why don't you go to law school? Why don't you become a teacher? Why don't you do something a little more tangible? Are the things that create that offer that really set me apart. So back to your question of determining whether I have something to offer, it was believing in myself enough to know that I do, and then testing the market to see, based on the things that I'm good at and the things that I want to do, what sticks and what other people will pay for.
Okay. So essentially, uh, you've had so far, you would agree that you've had success so far with those ideas?
Yeah, I mean, the business has grown. I've been doing this full time now for a year and a half, and the business's success is one thing, but kind of the self-belief and motivation is another like metric of success that I don't take for granted. I did start out this business kind of hoping people might take me seriously. And now I'm at a point where I can confidently turn people away if I don't think they're the right client for my business. And that sense of kind of personhood and confidence in what I offer and who I'm trying to work with is unmatched. It's the best thing in the world.
What is one piece of conventional wisdom in the industry that you followed for years and then you realized maybe this is not really the best wisdom and this is like holding you back in some way? What's your North Star? What's really guiding you here?
I think I'm very impatient and I always wanted kind of more in the workplaces that I was working in. I wanted more opportunity and I didn't want to wait for the biannual review, and I kind of wanted to grow all the time, and I felt limited in corporate spaces where I had to kind of follow what everyone else was doing. And I think that impatience or sense of restlessness or maybe like urgency led me to entrepreneurship. I mean, looking back, it feels obvious. Like there's enough of a drive within me that enough is kind of never enough. And that continuous desire for more and growth and moving the goalposts makes entrepreneurship kind of like an obvious choice. But I didn't see that at the time. So while mentors in the corporate space would say, Adina, do your job, be patient, the rewards will come. That certainly is true and would have been true had I been able to do that. But because I was always kind of itching for more, the corporate environment really wasn't for me in a lot of ways. I ended up getting fired from my last job, which prompted me to start the business and, um, just believe in myself full force and give it a go. And I think that those kind of qualities that didn't fit the corporate world were exactly the qualities I needed to succeed in the business that I now run.
Okay. So was it a big blow to your ego when you did get fired?
It hurt for sure. Like growing up, I was always kind of that high achiever. I was always kind of good at everything. People liked me, so it was uncomfortable for sure. It was a situation that I had never faced before. But looking back now, like it was the key that I needed to unlock this next path of mine. Like I'm a risk averse person, financially anxious. The thought of quitting my job where I was getting a decent pay, monthly pay, stability, benefits, all of that stuff felt way too unreasonable. So, in a way, I see that opportunity of being fired as a total gift. It was a real blessing to kind of force me to bet on myself because what else was I going to do at that point? I didn't have anything else lined up.
What is a non-obvious skill? So something that we're not going to find on your LinkedIn profile that's been essential to your professional growth.
A business coach of mine once gave me an assignment to ask 5 or 10 of the people closest to me in my life to think of the three attributes that best describe me. And many of the responses that I got came back with the word listener, like a good listener. And I think that that's actually been key to my success. The ability to people, make them heard, and kind of show that you care is it honestly the only reason I have clients. Like I can't confidently say I'm the best writer in the world or the most accomplished publisher in the world. That's simply not true. But I do care and I show that care through active listening, care, empathy, all of that stuff. And I think that that goes than you could ever imagine in business. Business seems to be this really kind of cold-hearted transactional thing from the outside, but at the end of the day, it's really all about relationships.
Well, that I agree with. I think relationship building and having people to turn to and network is huge. So let's say you had to start over today. You had zero capital, but you have all the knowledge that you currently have. What's the first move you would make in those first 48 hours?
I would probably just get on a bunch of calls with all the people that I've built relationships with, And uh, well, rather, I suppose I would start with setting a goal. So, what am I actually trying to achieve by starting this business from scratch? Am I looking to create a lifestyle business where I have time for work and time for play? Am I looking to create a unicorn? Do I want to go into tech? Like, what are my end goals here? Do I want to be driving a Ferrari or like, living in cottage country? And then working backwards from that, I'd start talking to people in my network, my trusted network. The interesting thing, or I suppose the lucky thing for me, is that my work has led me to relationships with a lot of executives. So the people that I serve often have a whole lot more knowledge on a whole lot more things than I do. So I'm basically paid to learn all the time. So it feels obvious to me that the first thing to do after determining what do I actually want and what am I trying to achieve would be to reach out to my network of people to determine, just to listen. It goes back to listening. I'll tell them this is what I'm thinking. What do you recommend? And then sit and listen. And that's it.
Okay. Um, Speaking, you must have heard the expression, your network is your net worth. And I think I think you've really honed in on that skill at a young age, and that's really respectful. I want to ask about resilience. You spoke about losing a job, you spoke about a few speed bumps along this journey, but how do you distinguish between a business idea that is simply uh, experiencing growing pains and one that's fundamentally flawed and needs to be scrapped and just thrown away? How do you get that resilience in distinguishing between those two ideas?
I'm not sure that it's resilience. Resilience is one thing. So to speak about kind of the speed bumps and overcoming them, it's not something you figure that you never face again. It's something you're eternally battling with. So in the first couple months of my business, I'd walk down the street and have these like three voices in my head saying like, Adina, what are you doing? This is insane. And then another one saying, no, but give it a shot. What do you have to lose? And a third one saying something completely different. And I'd be fighting with myself all while just trying to get to the grocery store in one piece. And what helps kind carve that path is not just self-belief because that won't get you all the way. It's testing the market. You need to determine what is your position, what am I trying to promise people, what is my offer, how do I actually package that, what is my service, and who am I trying to reach these people, who am I trying to reach with this position and offer. And then you simply test it. Like my coach said, give it a 3 month way. See if there are enough, let's call Canadian executives with over 10 years of experience who want to write books. Try it, see what happens. So, yes, your network is your net worth, but that's not to say I had a network of 100 people waiting for me to reach out to them who fit into that category of Canadian executive. No, like your network is something that you can always build. So I know I kind of walked around the question a little bit, but I think key is it starts with self-belief, but then it's about testing. And if over and over the statistic that actually 10 years of experience in executive positions don't want to write books, then I realize I need to go back to the drawing and say, okay, if that's not my audience, who is? Or if that's not what they want, if they don't want to write books, but maybe they want to write LinkedIn posts, how do I change my offer? So it's a mixture of persistence, like I literally have the word persistence taped to my wall, and at the data and self-belief.
Do you have anyone that you've hired, or is this just a solo business for you?
I have a lot of contractors that I work with. So I have two kind of right hand women, I would call them. Marita and Prachi basically help me run all of my business operations. So they help with outreach, they help with invoicing, and kind of all of the detailed stuff that I'm simply not good at.
Well, yeah.
And then on a per project basis, depending on I need support, I have a roster of editors and writers and designers and formatters that help me that forward. So yeah, it's not just me. Couldn't have done this alone for sure.
Right. Well, that actually leads us to our next question here. When you're building a team, what is the one green flag you look for that tells you someone really has the grit to succeed in a startup or a high pressure environment such as that you're running?
Yeah, I'm reading Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink right now, and it's basically a concept that we have this like gut feeling that can't exactly be articulated that determines whether we know something's going to work or not, or whether something's true or not, or real or not. And the example that he opens the book with is this museum and this artifact. And three experts came, and it cost the earth and all this stuff. Three experts came, and within seconds, they all said, "This is a fake." And the book kind of explores how could they possibly know without testing, without the science, without proof that it was a fake. It's like that gut reaction. I mean, we all have that gut instinct. And I took a workshop with Uri Levine, who's the co-founder of Waze, a little while back. And he said, hiring, we should lean into that gut instinct. But I put up my hand, and my challenge with that instinct is often, actually,
Uri
there's the book.
Levine,
I have
great.
it. I have it too. um, I actually gave him a signed copy of my book and took a photo with each of our books. Very funny, because his success,
I
obviously.
think I saw that photo on LinkedIn. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah. Um, anyway, so he says, trust your gut. And I put up my hand and I say, hey, but if I trust my gut, I likely won't do anything that's unfamiliar to me. Like, humans like people who are like them. But we've learned in the fields of diversity, equity, and inclusion that ultimately some of the best business results come from people who are different than you and who come from different backgrounds and experiences. So how do you navigate trusting that gut, that blink reaction while also for all the things that you don't know? And I don't necessarily answer to that question. I think especially when you're starting a business, it's much with people who are as fast paced as you are and who understand things and who can you can speak to without any kind of pretext or anything like that. And that's true, but I also try to find that I want to work with people who feel differently than I do. It's a balance that I haven't quite nailed down yet, but something that I'm definitely interested in exploring more as I grow the business.
When people describe your impact, let's fast forward the tape 10 years into the future. Okay, we're in 2036. What do you want them to talk about and about what you built and how you led? How do you want those discussions to look like in 10 years from now?
I hope people say that I led with integrity and I built the business on the basis of transparency and like clear communication and care. Um, so many businesses are trying to grow, 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 and it's very easy to get caught up in that desire as well. And as someone who's ambitious and wanting more, a really easy marker of success is to show how much your revenue is growing month over month because it feel like you're doing better. But with growing revenue, typically, depending on, the business model, typically comes with more clients and more work. And I've seen myself getting stretched thinner and thinner. And that's kind of challenged me to be able to give myself entirely to my clients in that transparent, empathetic, um, integral way. So in 10 years from now, I'm hoping to have figured out a way in which I can continue to lead values first, um, giving people the opportunity to write their stories, publish their stories, and market their stories in a way that feels true to me. Like ultimately, yes, every client that I work with is a business transaction, but they're also people that make a huge impact on my life, on whom I hope to make a similar impact as well. I think the way to do that is just to get really clear on what my purpose and my goal is, determine what is that monthly number that I need to hit in order to reach that goal in a couple years from now. What other metrics can I look at as metrics of success beyond just the financial? And how do I create a perfect blend of opportunities and even conversations like this to make me feel super grounded in what I'm doing and tethered to those values that I want to be known for?
What is a personal boundary that you've set in the last few years that's significantly improved your mental clarity, your decision making? It's easy to just say yes to everything and then get overwhelmed and then crash and burn. So, what personal boundary that you've set that has helped you?
I need help in this. It's very hard for me to say no, especially because the work I feel is so purpose driven. I just want to help all these people tell their stories. But in order to best do that, I know that I need to create some kind of boundary. Is it a waiting list? Is it a different opportunity to work with me, be it through like an online course or through my book, whatever it is? That's something I definitely need to work on. But in my personal life, in order to prioritize the business, I've actually had to give up quite a lot. Like I was in a band over the summer, and it was fun. And we were playing gigs, and we were meeting twice a week after work from 8 to 11 p.m. And I was really pushing to be there for every rehearsal and practice between and make the most of it because it was an amazing opportunity. But eventually I realized, something had to go. It goes back to, again, what am I trying to build? What life am I trying to create for myself? You can't exactly have your cake and eat it too. There are only so many hours in the day. And I honestly just needed to prioritize sleep so I could be my best for the business, then take advantage of the opportunity to play in the band for now. So the band's on pause. Not to say there won't be a time in my life where it'll come back, but for now, that's something that I've had to say no to.
What were you? You were playing an instrument. Which one were you?
Yeah, I play violin, which is not a typical instrument to be part of like a rock band. But we made it work. We played at the Horseshoe Tavern, actually. And now the band's doing super well. They're playing at the Madison Pub, the Monarch Tavern. It's very fun to see from the sidelines for sure. I'm cheering them on.
That's awesome. So you're taking more of a hands-off approach with the band for now.
Yeah, exactly. The violin sits in its case for now.
Okay. All right. Last question for you here. Um, a letter to the past. If you could sit down and with your younger self on the day that you started this new position, what is the one truth about success that you would want them to understand or your younger self to understand?
An expression that I've been using recently is that I feel nothing in there are zero items in my Amazon shopping. And I mean that like literally and figuratively. Like I really want for nothing. And it's because I've built a life that's leaned into um I've had the privilege of building a life that has been solely based on what I want. And I've worked hard enough to make all of that happen. So, what would I tell my younger self is there will be a lot of voices telling you to do this or do that or follow this path or take that road. But ultimately, you won't be able to do anything but listen to yourself, even if you don't know exactly what that voice is saying yet. And that's okay. Especially for people who go into the arts. I think we have this sense of, we can't be engineers and I couldn't possibly be a doctor, but what can I do? I'm not exactly sure. That uncertainty is actually, it's okay. You can live within it and let life lead the way some of the time, so long as you feel like you're putting your best step forward every step of the way. Like Steve Jobs has a quote that he says, uh, looking forward, the path isn't clear, but looking backward, that's when you see all the dots connecting. I
Mm,
mean, he says it much better than that.
right.
And that's 100% true. Like when I was starting a podcast in Ghana, like how does that connect to what I'm doing now? At the time, I had no idea. When I was working at a Jewish nonprofit doing a Facebook Live every night, like I was myself constantly, what are you doing, Adina? Like, how is this helping your career, this nebulous idea of career? But now looking back at all of those strange and wild experiences, I see how they've all led me exactly here. So what I would say to my younger self and anyone who's feeling uncertain or afraid is just lean into your inner voice, believe that there is enough for you out there. In fact, there's plenty, there's more than you need to build the life that you want. And take steps closer to that, be it a conversation with a new person or signing up for a new course or going to a new cafe, whatever it is, just as long as you're moving towards whatever you think might get you closer to what that voice wants, you'll never look back and regret all the things you tried to do to make your life the way that you wanted to. And worst case, I always say, like, if everything blows up for my business, I'll get a job in tech sales. I think that'll still be around. Not to demean tech sales in any way. I just think it actually has a lot of the attributes to be a good tech salesperson. You need a lot of the same attributes that I have in my work. So instead of operating from a what if something terrible happens, we can operate from this idea of like, what is the worst that could happen? And then let that be the worst that could happen and do it anyway.
Okay. This is the end. This is the end here. We never touched down on podcasting in Ghana. That sounds incredible. We might have to save that for a part 2 in the future to talk about that. But the book is Write It. This might be flipped here, but the book is Write It. How to move from just thinking about to actually finishing your first nonfiction book by Adina Samuels. Adina, it's been a real pleasure talking with you this morning. You're doing incredible things. You're super motivated, and I'm really happy that you could join us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me, Nathan. It was great to chat.